So, guys, the Cowboys minicamp was in full swing. Everything was going smoothly, and suddenly, head coach Schottenheimer made a decision that nobody expected. He shut down the last day of practice, and the reason behind this decision tells you everything about the true state of this roster right now. Let's take a deep look at this decision and the impact it is going to have on this team. What's up, Cowboys? Welcome to the NFL Playbook, Cowboys. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So, Schottenheimer canceled the third day of minicamp practice, and I know some of you saw that news and immediately started thinking something went wrong, because with this franchise, you never know what happened at what time. But honestly, this one is different. From everything coming out of Frisco, the temperatures were pushing 90 degrees, and Schottenheimer and the coaching staff felt like they had already accomplished everything they came in to accomplish. Think about that for a second. They felt so good about the work these guys put in over those 2 days that they just said, you know what? We are done here. Take the day off. We got what we needed. That right there tells you something about where this team is mentally. This is not a roster that needed a third day to figure things out. The message was clear. The guys were locked in, and Schottenheimer was not about to risk anybody's health in 90-degree heat when the work was already done. In fact, Schottenheimer said he could not be happier about how this offseason went. He used the word incredible to describe it. And look, this is a coach who has been dealing with distractions and noise ever since he took this job. So when he comes out and says something like that, I am taking him at his word. The vibe around this team right now is genuinely different from what we have seen in the past couple of years, and that canceled practice is actually a sign of confidence, not concern. And you know what? What makes this even more interesting is the fact that there was no Jerry Jones walking around stirring things up this time. If you have been following this team for any amount of time, you know exactly what I am talking about. There have been plenty of these mini camps where Jerry is out there for 20-30 minutes just talking to reporters, and who knows what comes out of that. None of that happened this time around. The Cowboys came in, did their work, kept everything clean, and got out. That is a different kind of discipline, and honestly, it is exactly what this team needed after everything that went sideways last season. No drama, no sideshows, just football. And that alone is a massive step forward for this organization. Okay, now let's talk about what actually happened in minicamp and some individual performances. And the biggest individual story coming out is George Pickens. I mean, guys, if you were nervous about this situation, you can breathe now. George Pickens showed up. Not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, all of it. He came in, he did his individual drills, he knew exactly where he needed to be in all the mock game stuff they were running. And he did not look like a guy who had just been sitting at home doing nothing. He looked sharp, he looked locked in, and more importantly, he looked happy to be there. That right there is the version of George Pickens that makes this offense genuinely scary for the rest of the league. But here is what really got me. When George Pickens was asked about training camp, he did not dodge the question. He did not get vague like he has done in the past when people brought up his contract situation. He straight up said he is going to be there. No holdout, no hold in, nothing like that. He wants to be out there with his guys. And I think a lot of people underestimate how big that is. We have seen players in this exact same situation use training camp as leverage, use it as a way to send a message to the front office. George Pickens is not doing that. He is bought in, and that changes everything for what this offense can look like when the season starts. And look, I want to add something here that I think gets overlooked when people talk about George Pickens. A lot of fans give him all the credit for that big season he had, and he deserves credit, do not get me wrong. But you have to understand that George Pickens is a product of his environment. When he was in Pittsburgh, he had no quarterback, a coaching staff he could not connect with, and a locker room that was starting to get a little loose. That frustration you saw from him in Pittsburgh, that was not who he is as a person. That was a guy reacting to a bad situation. You bring him to Dallas, you put him next to CeeDee, you give him Dak Prescott under center and Schottenheimer calling plays, and all of a sudden that same guy is locked in, bought in, and making plays. Environment matters more than people want to admit. And right now, George Pickens is in the best environment of his career. I also want to give credit where credit is due, and that is to Schottenheimer. Look, this man has been navigating some genuinely difficult situations since he took over this team. He is the one putting in the work behind the scenes, keeping George Pickens in the loop on scheme adjustments, making sure he feels valued and involved. That kind of coaching relationship matters more than people realize. Schottenheimer said it himself. George was on it. He knew the plays, he knew his assignments, and he was not behind at all. That does not happen by accident. That happens because the coaching staff has been doing the right things all offseason to keep that connection strong. And George also confirmed he is going to be part of the private workouts that Dak hosts every summer with the skill players. That right there tells you everything about where his head is at. Now, another big story coming out of minicamp is what's going on between CeeDee Lamb and Caleb Downs, and I have to be honest with you, it has me genuinely excited about this defense. These two have been going at it in individual drills, and it is exactly the kind of competition you want to see from a team that is trying to turn things around on that side of the ball. Lamb is one of the best receivers in the entire league. I do not care what anybody says. Top 5, period. And the fact that Caleb is out there every single day going toe-to-toe with him, not backing down, not looking like a rookie who is just happy to be there, that is something special. That is the kind of thing that does not show up in box scores, but absolutely makes a difference when the season starts. I heard about one rep in particular where Lamb ran an out route. Caleb tried to undercut it, and he was right there, this close, but Dak made the perfect throw to beat him. Now, some people might look at that and say, well, Caleb got beaten. I look at that and say this rookie was close enough to almost make that play against one of the best quarterbacks and one of the best receivers in the entire NFL. That is not a loss. That is a lesson. And you can bet Caleb is going to come back the very next day with even more fire because of it. That is just the kind of player he is. Nothing about him looks like a rookie right now. He carries himself like a guy who has been in this league for years, and the people around the building are absolutely noticing it. I have been hearing nothing but good things about Caleb from everyone connected to this team. The way he studies film, the way he retains information from Christian Parker, the way he competes every single rep, it is all pointing in the same direction. This kid is going to make an impact in year one, and going up against CeeDee Lamb every single day in practice is only going to accelerate that. Iron sharpens iron, and right now the Cowboys have two of the sharpest pieces on that field, pushing each other to be better every single day. And speaking of Christian Parker, look, I know I talk about this man a lot, but the more I hear from the players and the people inside that building, the more convinced I am that this defense is about to look completely different from last year. Every single defensive player that has talked about him has used the same word: detail. He is detailed, he is demanding, and most importantly, he is connecting with these guys in a way you simply cannot fake. People who have been in that building for years are saying they have not seen this kind of football intelligence on the defensive side in a long time. That is not hype, that is facts. Now, I want to close with something that Dak Prescott said during minicamp that I think got a little lost in the noise. Quinnen Williams came to this team having never made the playoffs in 7 years in the NFL. And when that came up, Dak looked at him and said, I will get you to the playoffs, but I need you to help us. Come on, that is a leader right there. That is a quarterback who is not shying away from the responsibility and is making personal promises to his teammates. That one quote from Dak tells you everything about the mentality inside that locker room right now. This is a team that is done talking and ready to deliver. Schottenheimer shut down that final practice because he saw enough. Pickens is locked in. Caleb is competing at the highest level from day one. Parker has this defense buying into something special, and Dak is out here making promises that this roster is ready to back up. Cowboys Nation, training camp is right around the corner, and honestly, I cannot wait.